Welcome, everyone. Today, we're breaking down a deeply complex and honestly explosive set of allegations that have just recently surfaced. In this explainer, we're going to walk through the source material, detailing claims of massive financial irregularities at the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. We'll be exploring exactly how an alleged syndicate supposedly bypassed state-of-the-art security to siphon off millions in donations. We're going to unpack the timeline, the methods, and the staggering scale of these claims, all laid out right here. Let's get into it. To truly wrap our heads around the gravity of these allegations, we first have to recognize the sheer emotional weight of this money. Our sources paint a vivid picture of the donors, right? We're talking about farmers donating a portion of their harvest, mothers saving household pennies, laborers hoping for a blessing. These aren't just financial transactions. They represent the absolute faith of millions of everyday people who stood in lines for hours, completely trusting that their offerings were going directly to the deity. And it's exactly this immense public faith that is alleged to have been betrayed. And this alleged betrayal, it happened in an environment that should have been virtually impenetrable. Think about this for a second. We are talking about an incredibly dense security infrastructure. There were 1,600 state-of-the-art CCTV cameras continuously monitored by TCS, dedicated audit teams, and specialized State Bank of India staff on site. This was literally designed to be one of the absolute most secure cash rooms in the entire country. Okay, let's dive into this. Because that is the multi-core question, isn't it? How on earth does a coordinated gang allegedly pull off a heist right under the noses of hundreds of cameras, top-tier auditors, and bank officials? Well, the sources break this down into a highly organized, step-by-step operation. Act 1. Creating the blind spot. Every successful heist requires a blind spot. And according to the documents, the first crucial step here was all about removing government oversight and blinding public transparency right from the get-go. Let's look at how this was legally structured. Back in February 2020, the government formed the managing body for the temple. But, crucially, they made it an autonomous trust. This means it operates privately, completely exempt from right to information or RTI inquiries. Now, what's pointed out as a massive contradiction in the sources is that despite being outside government control on paper, 12 of its 15 members, including prominent government-nominated figures like Nrpendra Misra, Champat Rai, and Dr. Anil Mishra, were put in charge. So public money pours in, but the public allegedly has absolutely no legal right to ask for the receipts. Because of this structural shield, early red flags were allegedly just completely suppressed. Way back in November 2020, a private audit firm explicitly warned the trust's top officials that the management was highly unprofessional and dangerously vulnerable to theft. And that warning? Reportedly ignored. Then, between 2021 and 2023, a construction engineer named Dinanath Verma actually blew the whistle on a staggering 40% commission demand. His reward for speaking up? His payments were stopped, and he was allegedly fired and threatened. The stage was perfectly set. Act 2. Assembling the inside crew. With the blind spot firmly established, the next logical step was getting the right people inside. The State Bank of India allegedly faced immense pressure to outsource the cash handling to a local Varanasi-based agency. This essentially bypassed standard interviews so they could hire based purely on connections. Just look at some of these alleged details. Tinu Yadav, the driver for a top trust official, somehow gets the actual keys to the strong room. His nephew gets a cushy cash counting job. Relatives and in-laws of another official are put in charge of counting cash and preparing vouchers. Now keep in mind, these were individuals with salaries ranging from just 12 to 22,000 rupees a month. Yet, according to the sources, they allegedly amassed staggering, sudden wealth practically overnight. A 50-crore property, a Fortuner, a farmhouse, and get this, 10 lakh rupees literally found hidden in a pile of cow dung. Act 3. Anatomy of the theft. So, the crew is on the inside, they're handling the cash, and they're completely shielded from public audits. There were up to 50 people in the counting room during these shifts. But with a highly coordinated effort, they reportedly bypassed all that heavy surveillance using a surprisingly low-tech method. Being locals who knew the layout perfectly, they allegedly operated in 4 simple steps. Step 1, deliberately stand in ways that blocked the specific views of those high-tech CCTV cameras. Step 2, quickly slip bundles of 500 rupee notes into their pockets. Step 3, casually excuse themselves to the adjacent washroom to stash the cash. And finally, step 4, just smuggle the money out of the complex after their shift ended to divide it all up.
Now, what's really interesting about this particular phase is how they had to adapt. When new security protocols made pocketing loose notes way too risky around early 2025, they supposedly invented a brilliant, albeit devious, deception. The sources call it the 120 notes trick. Normally, a standard bundle has 100 notes. So, if it's 500 rupee notes, that's exactly 50,000 rupees. But the counters allegedly started packing 120 notes into a single bundle. The voucher would still falsely claim it was a standard 50,000 rupee bundle, even though it actually held 60,000. So, when the transporters took the cash to the bank, they'd simply skim those 20 extra notes off the top before depositing the rest. The books perfectly balanced, but the cash was gone.
Act 4, the unraveling. But, even the cleverest schemes leave a footprint. By mid-2026, the State Bank of India started noticing suspicious anomalies in the donation patterns. They formally suggested replacing the counting staff, but the trust's leadership reportedly refused outright. So SBI officials essentially took matters into their own hands. In May 2026, they secretly installed hidden cameras inside the counting room. And boom, by June 4th, the footage clearly captured a worker named Avinash Shukla and others blatantly hiding cash in their clothes. A swift raid the very next day uncovered over $20,000 in foreign currency and 58 lakh rupees in assets at Shukla's home. The lid was officially blown off. By June 13th, the chief minister formed a special investigation team, or SIT. Right out of the gate, the SIT walked into the counting room's washroom and found 5.5 lakh rupees in cash just abandoned there. The story quickly went viral after an internal whistleblower leaked the details to the political opposition. But wait, it gets crazier. As the investigators closed in, the evidence literally began to vanish. The SIT discovered that 7 to 8 months of crucial CCTV footage had been completely deleted. This directly violated protocols mandating 180 days of video storage. And even more suspiciously, the radio maintenance officer, Arjun Dev, literally the sole man who controlled all 1,600 cameras and hadn't been transferred a single time in his 17-year career, was abruptly transferred to Gorakhpur, the exact moment the SIT arrived. Mobile phones were formatted and WhatsApp chats were allegedly wiped totally clean. So here is where we hit a massive snag. What happened when the SIT actually finished their preliminary report? Who did they submit it to? Additional Chief Secretary Sanjay Prasad. The glaring issue here, according to the sources, Sanjay Prasad is himself a member of the very Ram Mandir Trust that the SIT is investigating. Critics are pointing to this massive conflict of interest as the primary reason why the resulting initial police report on June 25th allegedly only targeted the low-level pawns, the drivers and cash counters, while completely shielding the powerful upper management who enabled them. Act V, expanding the web. Land flips and missing gold.
Just when you think the scandal couldn't possibly get any deeper, a massive second front opens up. On June 25th, 11 shocking documents were released to the SIT, showing that the cash room was apparently just the tip of the iceberg. These documents allegedly exposed massive land-flipping irregularities. In one specific instance from May 2021, an individual bought a piece of land for 2 crore rupees. Exactly 10 minutes later, actually, scratch that, I don't even think it took 10 minutes, that identical piece of land was sold to the Ram Mandir Trust for 18.5 crore rupees. That is a 16.5 crore markup in the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. Another individual allegedly flipped a 20 lakh rupee plot to the trust for 2.5 crore rupees in just 2.5 months.
But it wasn't just cash and land. Precious metals are also reportedly missing. The sources highlight some pretty devastating secondary allegations regarding physical donations. We are talking about 200 kilograms of silver bricks donated by the Sindhi community, a 3-kilo gold necklace, 1 kilo silver sandals, and countless earrings and nose rings donated directly into the boxes by devotees. The major catch? Donors allege they never received official receipts for any of these items once they handed them over. In fact, former accountant in charge Mahipal Singh went on the record with this pretty chilling quote, completely solidifying the claims of mismanagement. He claimed he personally saw 10 entire chests of silver jewelry moved with zero documentation. He stated that Tinu Yadav, again the guy holding the strongroom keys, would simply take photos of the jewelry on his phone instead of properly depositing it into the trust's official records. Because of all this, there is now a growing and frankly terrifying fear among the public that genuine, heavily valuable jewelry on the DD may have actually been swapped out and replaced with fakes. Finally, the fallout and the future. The sheer scale of these allegations, from stolen cash and deleted footage to massive land flips and missing gold, really points back to an absolute lack of transparency. a lack of transparency that has deeply betrayed the faith of millions of everyday donors. To prevent this from ever happening again, the sources outline 4 crucial systemic solutions. First, bring the trust fully under the Right to Information Act so the public can finally demand answers. Second, mandate independent yearly financial audits that are published publicly for everyone to see. Third, create a transparent, real-time digital dashboard for all donations. And finally, ensure a strict separation of power between the people sitting on the trust making the hiring decisions and the ground-level staff actually counting the money. Makes sense, right?
Which brings us to the end of today's breakdown, leaving us with this vital, lingering question. While the drivers and the counters are facing criminal charges, who are the powerful figures that truly orchestrated and enabled this massive alleged syndicate? And, perhaps way more importantly, for the millions who donated their hard-earned money, will genuine transparency and accountability ever actually be restored to the trust? It's a complex, rapidly developing story, and one we will certainly keep tracking. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.